My next guest, Peter Schiff, is a chief economist, a global strategist, and the founder of Euro-Pacific Assessment Management. He had this to say about our national debt and the economy. In case no one has noticed, the U.S. national debt has risen by $444 billion in the past 2 weeks. At that pace, the U.S. will be adding $11 trillion per year to the national debt. Clearly, something is wrong. A sovereign debt and a U.S. dollar crisis cannot be too far away. Peter now joins us once again. And again, do not shoot the messenger. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be the bearer of good news once again. And he's shaking his head. Peter, you know we love you because you're one hell of a smart guy. But every time you come on the program, I start getting really pissed off about what's happening in this country and what's happening to my tax dollars and the American tax dollars. So I know you probably don't have good news. So my first question is, the big fight in Capitol Hill was all over the speaker. But let's be real, it wasn't about the speaker. It was about the national debt and the spending. And those two things are adding to the inflation, along with now we've got massive walkouts, whether it's the car manufacturers or Kaiser Permanente, the health workers. We've got all these strikes. I don't foresee any silver lining in the future, but you're the expert. Fill us in.
No, it's all clouds. And unfortunately, they're rain clouds. But yeah, the problem has been over a decade of reckless spending financed by debt on the part of not only just the federal government, but look at all the state, municipal governments, corporate America, households. Everybody has gorged themselves on this debt fest that was served by the Federal Reserve. Interest rates were held artificially low for the better part of a decade. And as a result, we have accumulated trillions and trillions in debt that can never be repaid. The only thing we were able to do is pay the interest because it was practically zero. Well, now it's not zero anymore. The prime rate is at 8.5%. So many people are paying more than 10% to borrow money. Long-term treasuries are almost at 5%. They haven't yielded that much in over 15 years, but they're going a lot higher. We're still early in this journey back to normal rates. And in fact, we're not going to have normal rates. We're going to actually have higher than normal rates. But the problem is we can't handle it because we have much higher than normal debt.
And then I believe last time, or maybe 2 times ago, I can't remember, with when you come on and we talk all this bad stuff about our economy. But I think it's important for people to note, I believe you had told us we are at a all-time high when it comes to Americans' credit card debt and an all-time low for family savings. I hate to add insult to injury, but I mean, that just goes to show what Bidenomics is doing to the American household. Are those facts right?
Sure, we have low savings and high debt, and the debt keeps growing. I mean, obviously, the Fed's inflation fight isn't working because it's not resulting in more savings. It's just resulting in more spending. The problem is people are spending more but buying less because the extra spending is a function of higher prices. It's not because Americans are buying more, they're paying more. Yes. Everybody is paying more. That is Biden inflation tax.
Yes, thank you. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because we found a video I wanted to show the other day, but I held it for you and your appearance because you and I talked so much about inflation, and the numbers over the last 2.5 years the Biden regime have been lied about. First, it was inflation's around 6 or 7. They never said it was, I think, over double digits. You and I agreed it was well over 10, 11, 12, 14, whatever. I want you to watch this video. This is a regular American walking through Costco, showing you what prices are today. And he had taken pictures a year ago, October, to show you how much a bag of flour, this, that, whatever, has gone up. I'm sorry, this ain't no 10, 20% increase. Watch this, Peter.
So I'm walking around Costco here and I'm noticing these prices. For example, these Madras lentils, $15.99. I bought those a year ago for $6.99. I keep getting told that we got, 6-7% inflation. You gotta be kidding me. Let's look at what else we got going on here. We literally bought this chicken broth, $5.69, 2 months ago. Dang, this is the flour we were buying for $5.99 last year.
Now, some of those were $2 to $3 more over the last few weeks or year, but a majority of them were double The flour he had to pick, $5.99, it went to 12 something. This is not 10, 12%. I mean, and by the way, we're at $7 now in Southern California, a gallon of fuel.
Yeah, no, those photos don't lie. It's just the CPI that lies. And, you know, I did a study myself. This goes back to 2013. I didn't believe the CPI back then. And so I did a little study because it showed that over a 10-year period, according to the CPI, the price of newspapers and magazines rose by 30%. So I went back and I looked at photos on the internet of about 20 newspapers and magazines, the most highly circulated in the U.S., and I compared the prices that were written on the covers 10 years earlier to the prices that were on the covers in 2013. And the increase was not 30% like the CPI claimed, but 130%.
Right.
So what happened to the extra 100%? Well, obviously, it got lost in the sauce of the CPI. So the government is not honest about inflation. You know, that's one of the main reasons that Biden is so unpopular. You know, you have all these journalists scratching their heads trying to figure out why the president's popularity is so low because they think the economy is so great. The reason his popularity is so low is because the economy stinks. It's because inflation is so much higher than the CPI reflects. That's why people are struggling. That's why so many people have second and third jobs.
Yeah.
Because they can't make ends meet with their first job because the cost of living has gone up so much.
You're damn right. And you know what? These journalists, you got to watch what you call them. I like to call them activists. The ones that are preaching Joe Biden as our savior, they're activists. They don't get it because they're in a bubble. You know, they work at CNN or ABC or whatever. They've got their big six-figure salary. They're living in New York or DC. They're only rubbing elbows with the political elite, mostly on the left. And so to them, oh, it's a little bit of increase, but you make enough money to cover it. They don't worry about it. That's not 99% of the rest of America who is struggling when the flour goes from $5 to $12, when the gas goes from $2 to $7. We're pinched.
But the rich are going to be worried now that their assets are falling. Their stock prices, bond prices, and so they're going to start to feel the pain. They don't feel it at the supermarket, but they're going to feel it at the stock market. They're going to feel it in the bond market.
Yeah. So Peter, do you think when Biden announced the extra $9 billion for student loan debt buyout, forgiveness program, whatever he wants to call it, I call it election tampering, because that's what he's doing. He's trying to influence millions of people that he just paid off their loan with to vote for him. That obviously is going to, I would think, scare investors off. There is more debt that the federal government's accruing, so that means more inflation when you spend more of our money, right?
Well, of course, because if the government is not going to get back the student loans, where's the money going to come from?
Right.
It's going to come from inflation. The government's going to have to create more money to bail out people who took out student loans, and that means everybody else is going to foot the bill in terms of higher prices.
That's one of the most I mean, nobody ever calls us up from the federal government, Peter, and says, hey, can I pay your mortgage off for you, Peter? Let me make that car payment for you. You signed on the dotted line. You took the loan. You're supposed to pay for it in a capitalist system. But this regime, to buy votes, just, oh, don't worry about that college debt. We'll take care of it. Peter, I usually at the end ask you if there is a silver lining and any good news, but I think that's kind of a moot point tonight, isn't it?
No, unfortunately, there's no good news. I mean, you can try to protect yourselves. I mean, once you recognize the problem, even though you can't solve it or do anything about it, you can at least protect yourself, protect your families. You know, you can invest in the right things. You could buy gold and silver and get out of U.S. currency. You can buy quality assets around the world, dividend-paying foreign stocks to try to protect your wealth, because this inflation tax is going to get much, much higher in the coming years. And if you don't want to pay the tax, then you got to do whatever you can to avoid it as best you can by divesting of what's being taxed, which is your dollars. You know, your paycheck is going to be taxed, your savings, your investments, but to the extent that you can get some of that out of the U.S. dollar, you can at least avoid part of that inflation tax.
So, folks, bottom line, get ready for a harsh economic winter. And I don't mean just this winter. It's going to last next spring, next summer. This is going to be here for a while. Right, Peter?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. Peter Schiff, chief economist, founder of Schiff Gold, global strategist. As always, we appreciate your insight. We just hate the news. Take care, Peter. God bless you.
Care.
Yep.